Security staff dragged a black boy out of the bookstore. Little did they know he was the son of the city's education director. He didn't even get past the first chapter before a hand yanked his hoodie and a voice barked in his ear. "You stealing that, boy?" The book slipped from his fingers and landed open on the floor, like it was stunned too. 12-year-old Amir Preston loved bookstores. That was his mother's fault. She used to let him nap under the tables of Powell's when she was a grad student. Even now that she was the director of education for the entire city of Portland, she still lit up when Amir asked for a trip to a bookstore instead of a toy store. But this was the first time he had walked into Bellevue Books alone. It was supposed to be a reward. He had gotten straight A's. He'd saved his own allowance. He wanted one afternoon, one paperback, and one cookie from the cafe and back. What he got was humiliation. The security guard stood over him now, gripping Amir's arm like he was trying to squeeze the truth out of him. "I saw you stuff something in your jacket," the guard said. His voice was loud. Purposefully loud. People turned. 2 employees peeked from behind the cashier. A white couple browsing cookbooks froze. One of them reached for their phone, not to help but to record. Amir opened his mouth but nothing came out. His throat clenched. His cheeks burned. He looked at the book still lying at his feet. "The Stars Beneath Our Feet." He hadn't even opened his backpack. He hadn't done anything. "I didn't steal anything," Amir whispered. The guard scoffed. "That's what they all say." They. Amir knew what that word meant. His mother had taught him about those code words, the ones that didn't need to be shouted to sting. They meant black. Poor. Suspicious. Dangerous. He glanced toward the windows. Sunlight lit up the front of the store, but it couldn't reach where they stood, deep between shelves, near the YA section. The guard started patting down his pockets like Amir was a grown man at a traffic stop. People were watching. No one moved. No one said anything. Then a voice cracked through the store. "Excuse me. What the hell do you think you're doing?" A woman in a navy suit strode toward them, her heels hitting the wood floor like war drums. Her eyes burned, and her jaw was clenched so tight Amir thought she might break her teeth. It was her. It was his mother. The guard blinked, still holding Amir's wrist. "Ma'am, this kid. This kid is my son." Everything stopped. The silence was almost violent. The man let go, quickly, like Amir's arm had just turned into a live wire. He looked suspicious, the guard muttered, suddenly uncertain. Amir's mother looked down at her son. She didn't ask him what happened. She didn't need to. She saw the book, saw the fear, saw the flushed face. She turned to the manager who had appeared from the back, trying to offer a flimsy apology. "Save it," she snapped. "Your store just racially profiled a child. A child who came here to spend his own money on a book. You didn't just accuse him. You grabbed him. You embarrassed him in front of everyone in here. I want names. I want the footage. And you better believe you'll be hearing from the school district's legal team by morning." By now, everyone had gathered. But it wasn't a crowd anymore. It was an audience. The guard stammered. "Ma'am, I didn't know who he was." "You don't have to know who he is to treat him with respect." She took Amir's hand. "Let's go." But Amir didn't move. He looked up at her. His voice was quiet, but firm. "Can I still get the book?" Her face softened. Her hand squeezed his. "Of course." They walked back together. Amir picked up the book. He paid in cash. The cashier's hand shook. He didn't say a word. As they stepped outside, the sun felt like it belonged to them again. Amir still felt the bruise of shame, but also the warmth of being seen. That evening, while his mother made calls and drafted emails, Amir sat at the kitchen table, the book open in front of him. But he wasn't reading. He was writing. A letter. Not to the bookstore. To the mayor. Because this wasn't just about him. And Amir Preston had learned something that day. He wasn't just a kid who liked books. He was the son of a woman who refused to stay silent. And now, maybe, he wasn't going to stay silent either. That was the day he decided he would write everything down. Every time someone said they. Every time someone looked at him like he didn't belong. Because one day, he was going to write a book too. And he was going to make sure everyone read it. He sat there in the back room of the bookstore, staring down at the concrete floor, still clutching the graphic novel he had paid for. Elijah could feel his pulse pounding in his ears like a drumbeat. His hands were shaking, but he didn't want to show fear. Not in front of this man. Not again. Still not talking, the guard said, crossing his arms. He was leaning against the wall like he owned the place, eyeing Elijah with something between suspicion and contempt. You kids think you can just walk in and do whatever you want. Elijah didn't respond. He didn't have to. The receipt was still inside the book, neatly folded. He had shown it already. Twice. But the guard hadn't cared. Not when he grabbed him by the arm in front of everyone. Not when he dragged him across the store like some criminal. Not when people stopped and stared and whispered. You lucky I don't call the cops, the guard added. But I'll let your mama come down here and handle this. Maybe she'll teach you a thing or two about respect. Elijah wanted to scream. His mother didn't even know he had left the house. She was still at work, probably sitting in a meeting room with teachers or evaluating new district policies. He had just wanted to get some air. The bookstore on 9th Street was his quiet place. His refuge. It had always been that way until now. He gritted his teeth, remembering the humiliation, the way people moved away when they saw him being pulled aside. One woman had whispered something to her son. Another man had stepped back like Elijah might lash out. And when he tried to speak, to explain, the guard had shoved him through the employee door without a second thought. He was 14. Quiet. Smart. Liked chess and poetry. And today, all it took was a hoodie and dark skin for the world to assume the worst. The door creaked open. Elijah looked up, expecting his mom. It wasn't her. Instead, it was the store manager, a short white woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard. She didn't even look at Elijah. She went straight to the guard. Daryl, she said under her breath, I just spoke to the front cashier. This boy paid. He didn't steal anything. Daryl frowned. He was acting suspicious. Wandering around. Kept looking over his shoulder. You mean he was browsing, the manager said, her voice curt. No. I mean look, I've worked here a long time, okay? I know what I'm doing. He looked like he was casing the place. Don't tell me I can't trust my gut. The manager's eyes narrowed. Your gut? Or your bias? Daryl looked like he was about to argue, but she cut him off. Go take your break. Now. He muttered something and walked out, casting Elijah one last glance as if daring him to smile in triumph. Elijah didn't. He just looked back down at the floor, his fingers curling around the book. The manager finally turned to him. I'm sorry, she said. He's not usually like this. Elijah didn't believe her. He had seen the look in Daryl's eyes. The ease with which he assumed guilt. The casual cruelty. That wasn't the first time. And it wouldn't be the last. Can I go now? Elijah asked softly. Yes, she said. Of course. If you want to file a complaint. No, Elijah said, standing slowly. You'll hear from someone else. He left without another word. Outside, the sky was still gray, and the air was heavy with rain. He didn't have an umbrella, but he didn't care. He walked anyway, heading home on foot, cutting through alleys and quiet streets, replaying the moment again and again. When he got to the front door, his mother's car wasn't there yet. Good. He needed time to think. He sat at the kitchen table and pulled out his phone. He had taken a video from his pocket while Daryl was talking down to him. It wasn't clear, but the audio was. And now he replayed the voice. The tone. The accusation. It burned. He could have just deleted it. Tried to forget the whole thing. But something inside him had changed. Something had snapped. He didn't want revenge. He wanted justice. He emailed the video to someone he trusted. Someone who had power. Then he waited. That night, Elijah's mother came home exhausted, her briefcase heavy and her shoulders sagging from another long day. She saw his face first, the tired eyes, the way he barely touched his dinner, and she knew. "What happened?" she asked. He hesitated. "I got stopped at the bookstore." Her eyes widened. "They thought I stole a book," he continued. "The guard pulled me in the back. Wouldn't listen. Called me a thief." Her hands clenched around the edge of the table. "And you didn't call me?" "I didn't have to," he said quietly. "I already sent the video. To Uncle Ray." Her brother. Raymond Jackson. Chief Legal Advisor for the City Board of Education. Her mouth fell open. "Elijah. I didn't want to get anyone fired. But I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of being followed in stores. I'm tired of being looked at like I don't belong. And today, it was different. It wasn't just about me. It was about every kid like me." She reached across the table and took his hand. Her voice shook. "I'm so proud of you." The next morning, the city woke to headlines. Bookstore guard detains black teen despite proof of purchase. The video had gone viral overnight, shared by educators, parents, and civil rights groups. People were outraged not just by the act itself, but by how familiar it felt. Elijah's name trended online, along with hashtags like Read While Black and Justice for Elijah. And within days, the fallout began. The bookstore issued a public apology. Daryl was suspended. And the mayor's office scheduled a press conference on racial profiling in commercial spaces. But that wasn't the end. Because the superintendent of schools, the very same woman Elijah's mother worked with, invited Elijah to speak. Not as a victim. As a voice. He stood behind a podium, looking out at cameras and reporters, and cleared his throat. "My name is Elijah Davis," he began. "And I want to talk about what it means to walk into a bookstore and be seen as a threat, not a student." He spoke clearly. Powerfully. His voice unwavering even when his hands trembled. And in the audience, his mother wept. Because the world now knew what that guard didn't. Elijah wasn't just a black kid in a hoodie. He was the son of the director of education. And he was going to change everything. The city thought it would all die down after the press conference. But Elijah had other plans. He didn't want to be a trending story that faded in 48 hours. He didn't want another apology issued in sterile language and then swept under the rug. This wasn't just about him anymore. It never had been. That week, he started a campaign at school. It was called Seen and Safe. It began with a poster on the hallway wall, then grew to student petitions, open discussions in homeroom, and even a student-led assembly. Kids who had never spoken up before started sharing their own stories, being followed at the mall, getting accused of cheating because of how they looked, being asked if they belonged in honors classes. And Elijah listened. He wrote everything down. Every name, every place, every pattern. Because he remembered what his mother always told him, stories were proof. And patterns were power. His mother, meanwhile, moved quietly behind the scenes. She didn't use her title to threaten anyone. Instead, she worked through the channels she had built over a career principals, union leaders, PTA presidents. She shared her son's story, not to shame, but to open eyes. She reminded them that the way we see children affects how we teach them, protect them, and believe in them. It wasn't long before the superintendent called again. This time, not for a statement but for a proposal. A new initiative for training school staff on racial bias. Not just lectures, but immersive programs, student-led forums, accountability measures. And Elijah would help shape it. He was stunned. Me? I'm just a kid. His mother smiled. Exactly. And they finally understand that's why they should listen. As the program developed, so did the momentum. Local news followed the initiative closely. Teachers in nearby districts asked for materials. Bookstores and small businesses started requesting bias awareness workshops. What happened to Elijah became a wake-up call the city couldn't ignore. But not everyone supported him. One afternoon, after school, he found his locker vandalized. Someone had spray-painted the word liar across it in red. Inside, his notebooks were ripped and his campaign flyers shredded. He stood there for a long time, just staring. He didn't cry. He didn't run. He took out his phone. Took a picture. And posted it with a single caption, "Still think this doesn't happen?" By evening, his post had over 100,000 shares. And the next morning, students had covered his locker with affirmation sticky notes in every color saying things like "We believe you," "Thank you for your voice," and "Change starts with you." Teachers stood with him in the hallway. Even the school janitor gave him a nod and handed him a new lock, free of charge. That night, over dinner, Elijah looked at his mom. "Is this what being brave feels like?" "Because I'm not sure I like it." She chuckled gently. "Being brave doesn't always feel good. It just means you do what's right even when it's hard." He nodded. "Then yeah. I'm being brave." Weeks passed. Then months. The guard from the bookstore was quietly dismissed after new footage surfaced from other incidents. A young black girl, also accused of theft. A Latino father stopped at the door and asked to show his receipt. There was a pattern. And the pattern cost the store its reputation and its revenue. They reached out to Elijah again. This time, to ask for help. To advise them on rebuilding community trust. He didn't respond right away. He thought about it for days. And then, with his mom's blessing, he said yes. But only on his terms. He walked into that same bookstore where he had once been detained. The walls looked the same, but the energy had shifted. The guard was gone. The new manager greeted him with a handshake and nervous smile. They sat for hours. Elijah explained how their policies needed to change, how bias training alone wasn't enough. They needed community partnerships, student engagement, transparency. He helped design a youth advisory panel that would meet monthly. He helped select the books in their Voices That Matter section. He even got them to host free reading hours for underserved students. And he never let them forget what brought him there. At the next city council meeting, Elijah stood beside his mother and the superintendent. He was taller now. His voice deeper. But his message was the same. "My name is Elijah Davis. And I believe every child has the right to feel safe when they walk into a bookstore, a classroom, a courtroom, a playground. I was once seen as a threat. Now I stand here not in anger, but with purpose. Because when people like me are heard, not just seen, our whole city becomes better." The room gave him a standing ovation. One council member, an older white man with silver hair and a skeptical past, leaned into his mic. "Son, you ever thought about public service?" Elijah laughed. "Ask me in 10 years. Later that night, as the city lights glittered outside their window, his mom pulled out a scrapbook. Inside was a photo from when Elijah was 7, sitting on the floor, cross-legged, reading a picture book with a cape on his back. "You always wanted to be a superhero," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I still do," Elijah replied. "Just the real kind." She kissed the top of his head. "You already are." And in that moment, Elijah knew that the real battle wasn't over. But he had already won something far greater than a headline. He had reclaimed his voice. He had helped others find theirs. And he had reminded an entire city that sometimes, the quietest kids carry the loudest truths.